There are critics of the Green Revolution that say we should not be using this much fertilizer, we should not be using this much pesticides, all of these chemicals are bad.
The evidence doesn't show that that is true. First of all, let me talk about the fertilizer. The world is using, just in nitrogen alone, without the phosphorus, potash, and minor elements, sulfur, which you need on some soils, about 87 million metric tons of nitrogen. It's impossible to produce the food for 6.4 billion people without chemical nitrogen. If you tried to do it with the cow manure, cattle manure, the dry manure has about 2% of nutrient nitrogen. So 87 million times 50 will give you something, the rough figure I don't remember exactly, but 4.5 billion tons of animal manure. We have difficulty moving 200 kilos of chemical fertilizer. The volume, how are you going to move it? But even worse, to produce that amount of manure, we have about 1.5 billion head of cattle in the world. We would probably have to have between 6 and 7 billion cattle. What would we do? Chop down how many forests that are left to produce the grass and the hay for the cattle? A lot of nonsense. High-yield agriculture is not the enemy of the wildlife or of our own health. Talk about our own health. Life expectancy at birth in 1900 was 46 years on average for a boy baby, 48 for a girl baby. In the year 2000, 100 years later, it was 75 years, not 46, for a boy baby and 80 for a girl baby. Are we being poisoned out of existence? And if you look at worldwide cereal production in 1950, this is all countries, all cereal grains, production was about 650 million tons of grain. By the year 2000, it was 1,900,000,000, essentially 3 times as much. The area cultivated in the year 2000 was 0.66 billion hectares, 660 million, if you want to put it that way. Had you tried to produce the harvest of the year 2000 with the technology of 1930, you would have had to cultivate an additional 1.1 billion hectares more of land of the same quality of those 660 million we cultivated to produce the harvest of the year 2000. Probably much more land, because much of that land would have been of lower quality. So, what choice do we have? Biotechnology is a bad word for many people now, because we can make crosses we couldn't make before. So we're messing into something that we aren't supposed to be involved in. But as long as the population monster is pushing on us, what choices do we have? Let the world collapse? I want to cut down on human misery.